And if you talk to my students, they will tell you, oh yes, Ms. Love has high expectations for them. She believes that they can be world changers. And she loves them from the minute they walk into our classroom until forever. I have the distinct honor of representing Ysleta Independent School District as the Elementary Teacher of the Year. Moving forward, I would be doubly honored to be able to represent Region 19 and let the state of Texas know what incredible things we do here in this district. I currently am a second grade teacher at Loma Terrace Elementary, and as you've heard, I will be starting 42 years. I graduated from McMurray University in May of 1977, and I know some of you were not even born, but don't judge. I came back to El Paso, and I thought substituting would be a great way, because there was still school for another month. Substituting would be a great way to get some experience. And my mom was a substitute because she said she couldn't go back into an empty house when I left for college. So we got to substitute together, and many of our substituting days were spent at Loma Terrace with Mr. James Thompson as the principal. And just a side note, I got to have lunch with Mr. Thompson this summer, and that was the most incredible experience because I was able to tell him thank you for believing in me so many years ago, and he was doubly honored to be able to congratulate me on my experience thus far. So anyway, going back to substituting at Loma Terrace, after that in July, I went to the personnel office on Valdespino Drive, and Mr. Thompson happened to be sitting in the waiting room, and he was waiting to talk to Mr. Fitzgerald, who was a personnel director at the time. And he leaned over to me before he went in, and he said, Miss Vandiver, what grade do you want? And I said, ooh, nothing above 4th grade. So he went in and he took care of his business, and then it was my turn to go in. And when I came out, you guessed it, I was assigned to Loma Terrace, 4th grade. And so then, after that, I didn't know what journey my life would take. So I had been teaching about 3 years, and then I met Mr. Love. And then, a little bit later, I became Mrs. Love. And then our son was born. A few years later, our daughter was born. And then in 2000, I lost my dad. And one of my 4th grade students at the time brought me a little tiny sapling. And she said, Miss Love, this is for your dad, for his memory. And I shared it with my principal at the time, Mr. Dale Skinner, and he thought, what awesome thought it would be to have this tree planted on the school grounds. And so the reading specialist, Mrs. Pat Donaldson, Mr. Skinner, my class, and I all circled around in the front of the school, and we broke ground for that pine tree, which now towers over the building. And every now and then, my dad and I get to have a little conversation. So then, before I leave, I would hope to have a tree planted in my mom's memory. I became a teacher not only because of the value my parents had on education, but because I had 2 inspirations along the way. One was my 4th grade teacher at Newman Elementary School in the El Paso district, and another, Mrs. Zelda Mae Pendergrass, and another was my high school band director, Mr. John Bailey at Andrus High School, also in the El Paso district. Rita Pearson says that every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, someone who understands the power of connectivity, and someone who will insist that those students be the very best they can be. Ms. Pendergrass and Mr. Bailey along with my parents, were my champions. And I knew, because of the warm fuzzies that I got from them, that I wanted to have a classroom full of students so that I could be a champion for them. And if you talk to my students, they will tell you, oh yes, Ms. Love has high expectations for them. She believes that they can be world changers. And she loves them from the minute they walk into our classroom until forever. I never knew until I started teaching how many little students could fit into my heart. Many of my students are successes, many of them, but let me tell you about just a few of them. In preparation for Saturday, I told my husband, look for a tuck shop. And so of all the tuck shops we could locate, we found the tuck shop by Montwood High School. And I walk in and I connect eyes with a young man there. He was my former student. He was on my Odyssey of the Mind team. And we had the best time standing there reminiscing about back when he was in 4th grade. Then he pulled out a picture and he showed me his kids. He has a 13-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And he was so delighted to be able to fit my husband for a tux for Saturday night. I have another student who is a speech pathologist. I have another student who I got to have a picture taken with earlier in the week who works at our central office, Ms. Monica Bustillos. She emailed me when it was first announced through Ysleta ISD that I had received Teacher of the Year for the district, and she said, Ms. Love, you probably don't remember me. Don't you all love those? And then she told me her maiden name, and immediately it clicked who she was. And they grow up, and you don't recognize them sometimes. I have a student who's an FBI agent. I have a student who can fix our phone screens or our laptops. I have another student who's researching cancer. How great is that? But I guess the students, former students that I have that are nearest and dearest to my heart, because I think teaching is such an honor, are my former students who are my colleagues, such as the young man who's going to escort me Saturday night. He's in the Socorro district, and he posted a picture holding up the Big Four. He was so proud that he was going to start 4 years. And I laughed and I told him, I said, you know what, Chris, before you know it, you're gonna have a 0 by that 4. And I know he just wanted to send me the rolly eyes. I've been blessed by these 42 years, and I can't wait until August 27th to be able to start a new chapter in my book. I'd like to thank Region 19, TFCU, and of course my district for the many years and the guidance along this journey. Thank you.